If you ask a physicist, what reality is actually made of, they will probably tell you it's atoms or quarks.
Right. Invisible fields of energy just vibrating in a vacuum.
Exactly. Or, if you ask a carpenter, they'll tell you it's wood and nails and concrete. We have this really deeply ingrained expectation that reality is built out of stuff.
Yeah, tangible, physical, measurable material, stuff you can actually hold in your hand.
Right.
Which is, it's the ultimate bias of the human sensory experience. We trust what we can weigh. We trust what we can measure. We just assume the universe is a giant physical machine.
But what if that is like a complete illusion? What if the universe isn't built out of physical matter at all?
That's the big question.
Yeah, so today we are basically taking a sledgehammer to that physical bias. We are jumping into a deep dive on a collection of, honestly, incredibly profound excerpts from an analysis of the Sefer Yetzirah.
The Book of Creation, yeah.
Right, the Book of Creation.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most ancient, most cryptic, and frankly, most mind-bending texts in the entire tradition of Jewish mysticism, or Kabbalah.
And, our mission today is not to give you some dry history lesson on ancient theology.
No, definitely not.
Our goal is to explore an entirely different lens on reality. We are going to unpack a paradigm where the cosmos is literally constructed out of language and numbers and consciousness.
It's wild.
It is. We'll be looking at what this text calls the 32 mystical paths of wisdom, and discovering how ancient mystics viewed existence as a literal 5-dimensional linguistic construct.
It's basically the ancient equivalent of the simulation theory, but just infinitely more poetic and mathematically speaking, shockingly rigorous.
Oh, the math is staggering.
It really is. So just to set the parameters for you, the listener,
Yep.
Our sources today are detailed line-by-line commentaries breaking down just the very first chapter of the Sefer Yetzirah.
Just the first chapter, yeah.
Right. And we are going to explore ancient Hebrew phonetics, cosmic geometry, the physical paradox of infinite space, and how the architecture of the entire universe perfectly mirrors your own human nervous system.
Which is one of my favorite parts of this text.
Oh, it's so good. So whether you are, a philosopher or maybe a software engineer dealing with base-level code, or just someone listening to this right now who is insanely curious about the fundamental nature of existence.
This deep dive is going to fundamentally challenge how you view the raw data of reality.
Absolutely. So to even begin to grasp how this universe was supposedly constructed, I think we have to understand the tools that were used to build it, right?
Exactly. You can't understand a house without understanding a hammer and a saw.
Right.
And in this framework, those tools are the 32 mystical paths of wisdom.
So the text actually opens by stating that the universe was engraved with these paths. And I want to break down exactly what these paths actually are, because at first glance, they seem almost, childishly simple.
Yeah, they really do. The commentary defines the 32 paths as 2 distinct components. You have the 10 digits, so 0 through 9, which the text associates with the 10 Sephirah.
Sephirah.
And then you have the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So 10 digits plus 22 letters equals 32 paths.
See, it does sound like preschool building blocks, numbers in the alphabet.
Right, but the text elevates these from just, mere symbols to the absolute foundational forces of existence. They represent the 2 pillars of reality, quantity and quality.
Okay, I want to push on that distinction a bit because it seems really crucial. How exactly are digits quantity and letters quality?
Well, think about any object in your physical space right now, say an apple on a table.
Okay. And
the qualities of that apple, right? Its redness, its sweetness, its spherical shape, its literal essence as a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
Those are all described by words, which are formed out of letters. Letters define the nature, the boundary, the whatness of a thing.
The whatness, right.
But the quantities associated with it, how many apples there are, its weight in grams, the duration of days before it rots.
Those can only be expressed by numbers.
Exactly. Digits. Together, letters and numbers form the complete base code of reality. You simply cannot have a physical universe without both the qualitative essence and the quantitative measurement.
Right, but the sources actually bring up this massive philosophical hurdle regarding numbers specifically. They argue that numbers cannot even conceptually exist until there is some element of plurality in creation.
Which is a huge concept.
Yeah, meaning like before the universe was created, the very idea of a number was a literal impossibility.
Right, and to understand that, we have to define the state of existence before creation. In Kabbalistic thought, the infinite being, the creator before the universe was actually formed, is described as a complete, perfect, and absolute unity.
Just total oneness.
Total oneness. A simple unity containing no division, no parts, and no plurality whatsoever.
Okay, so if everything is one infinite, undifferentiated whole, there's absolutely nothing to count.
Precisely. I mean, if you are the only thing in existence and you are infinite, the number one is totally meaningless.
Because one implies the possibility of two.
Exactly. The Sefer Yetzirah actually asks this brilliant rhetorical question later on. It says, before one, what do you count?
Wow.
Yeah, plurality and therefore numbers, mathematics, quantity, they only came into existence with the advent of creation. The 10 Sephirot, these 10 digits, they represent the very first introduction of plurality into a previously unified existence.
So the 32 paths are the literal blueprint of plurality. And the sources provide this incredible map, Table 2 in the text we reviewed, showing how this exact mathematical blueprint is hidden in plain sight in the book of Genesis.
Yeah, the very first account of creation in the biblical text.
Right. And the Kabbalists point out that the 32 paths are explicitly activated in the Torah through a specific name of God.
Specifically, the name Elohim. If you count every time the word Elohim is used in the first chapter of Genesis, the story of the 6 days of creation, it appears exactly 32 times.
I mean, that is the kind of mathematical precision that just makes you stop in your tracks.
It's incredible.
But it actually goes deeper than just a total count of 32, right? The text breaks down those 32 mentions to perfectly match the two components of the paths, the 10 digits and the 22 letters.
Yeah, let's look at the verbs attached to the name Elohim. So the phrase God said, as in God said, let there be light, that appears exactly 10 times.
10 sayings, paralleling the 10 digits or the 10 Sephirot.
Exactly. Then we move to the 22 letters. And the Sefer Yetzirah divides the Hebrew alphabet into 3 very specific categories. You have 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, and 12 elemental letters.
Okay, and Genesis actually mirrors this categorization flawlessly.
Flawlessly.
So the phrase God made appears exactly 3 times. That parallels the 3 mother letters. Then the phrase God saw, as in God saw that it was good, that appears exactly 7 times.
Matching the 7 double letters.
Right. And the remaining 12 actions associated with Elohim, phrases like God divided, God called, God placed, God blessed, there are exactly 12 of those.
Paralleling the 12 elemental letters.
So it's 10 plus 3 plus 7 plus 12. Exactly 32.
It is a complete linguistic matrix. It suggests that the Genesis narrative isn't just, a mythological story. It is a coded record of these 32 specific fundamental forces being activated.
But, this raises a really glaring question. If the creator is this ultimate, infinite, simple unity, why use the name Elohim for this process?
That's a great point.
Like in the Jewish tradition, there are many names for God.
Right.
And some of them explicitly denote mercy or like infinite oneness. So why choose Elohim as the engine for creation?
And that question really cuts to the absolute core of Kabbalistic physics, because the name Elohim is entirely unique grammatically. In Hebrew, the suffix im denotes a plural noun.
Right.
Elohim is literally a plural word.
Now, obviously, monotheistic mysticism isn't arguing for multiple gods.
No, of course not.
So what does a plural name for a singular god actually mean in this context?
It means that while God is singular, the manifestation of God in the specific act of creation is plural. The name Elohim is the force of delineation, definition, and division.
Okay, division.
Yeah, think about the physical requirement of a universe. You cannot build a structured reality out of infinite unity. Infinite unity is just like a blinding, omnipresent white light.
Because if everything is white light, you can't see anything. There are no shapes.
Right. To have a star or a planet, a tree, a human being, you have to draw a boundary. You have to create separation. You have to say, this is the edge of the star and this is the empty space around it.
So creation fundamentally requires defining things as separate from one another.
Exactly. So Elohim is essentially the cosmic scalpel. It is the force that slices up the infinite unity so distinct objects can actually exist.
With scalpel. And that is the exact function of the 32 paths.
Yes. Each path serves to delineate and define a particular aspect of reality. Therefore, they are perfectly represented by that plural name Elohim, the force of structure and division.
Okay, so if the 32 paths are the ultimate tools of division, where do they actually originate? Because they can't just, materialize out of nowhere.
Right.
And this brings us to what the text describes as the fundamental cosmic duality of the mind, the interplay between Wisdom, which is chakma in Hebrew, and understanding, which is bina.
And this is where we really have to reconcile a major paradox in the text. We just established that the 32 paths are the tools of division, right?
Right, the scalpel.
But the opening stanza calls them the 32 mystical paths of wisdom. And in Kabbalah, wisdom, or chakma, is the exact antithesis of division.
Okay, we definitely need to redefine wisdom here, because in standard English, wisdom just means having good judgment or a lot of life experience. What does chakma actually mean in this mystical framework?
In this architecture, wisdom is pure, undifferentiated mind. It is pure, simple, nonverbal thought. It is a level of consciousness that exists above all division, where everything is an absolute, seamless unity.
I have to admit, I struggle to even conceptualize nonverbal thought. Every time I think, there's a voice in my head using language. How do you possibly have a thought without words?
And that's exactly because our daily consciousness operates entirely on a lower divided level. We rely on language to separate concepts, but the sources give us some really fascinating textual anecdotes to help us try to grasp this unified state of wisdom.
Yeah, I loved these examples in the text.
Yeah, for example, there's a very famous Talmudic question. It asks, "Who is wise?" And the answer given is, "He who learns from every man."
See, normally you just read that as a basic moral proverb about humility,
Yeah.
right? Be a good listener, don't be arrogant.
Exactly, but the Kabbalistic commentary strips away the moralizing and reads it as metaphysical physics.
Metaphysical physics, I love that.
It argues that on the level of wisdom, all humanity is literally one entity. There is no separation between human souls. Therefore, if a person attains the consciousness of wisdom, they must learn from every human being because they perceive that every other person is literally just a different aspect of themselves.
Wow. And the sources even cite the Baal Shem Tov, right? The 18th century founder of Hasidic Judaism.
Yeah.
He took this concept to its absolute kind of terrifying extreme.
He really did.
He said that a person operating on the level of wisdom must even learn from evil.
Right, because on the level of pure wisdom, even the division between good and evil has not yet occurred. It's wild to think about. It is only as consciousness descends into lower structured levels of reality that individuals become separate, and that strict moral delineations between good and evil are crystallized. Wisdom itself is just unadulterated, blinding unity.
And it transcends time, too.
Yeah.
The text quotes another Talmudic phrase, "Who is wise? He who perceives the future."
Yeah, and again, if you view this through a mystical lens, perceiving the future isn't about, having a crystal ball or psychic powers. It's about the fundamental nature of time itself.
How so?
Time is a mechanism of separation. It separates events into past, present, and future, but wisdom transcends all separation. On the level of wisdom, past, present, and future exist simultaneously as a single, unified reality.
So for a truly wise mind, perceiving the future is just as natural as perceiving the present, because they literally aren't separated.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have wisdom, talk about this, nonverbal, timeless, unified state of pure mind. But as we established with the name Elohim, a universe cannot exist in a state of pure unity.
No, it can't.
The universe requires division. Which brings us to the necessary counterpart to wisdom, which is understanding, or bina.
Right, understanding or bina is the level immediately below wisdom, and the Hebrew etymology here is just flawless. The root of the word bina is bain, which literally translates to between.
Between, literally the space separating two things.
Exactly. Understanding is the separated mind, while wisdom is pure, undifferentiated thought. Understanding is the mental arena where ideas are separated, scrutinized, delineated, and defined. It is where you can actually tell the difference between this and that.
Okay, so if wisdom is like the world's soul where all humanity is one, understanding is the level where my soul and your soul assume distinct, separate identities. We actually become individuals.
That's a great way to put it. And going back to the divine names, the text explicitly associates the plural name Elohim with understanding, with bina, because understanding is the birthing ground of plurality.
All right, let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because the text itself wrestles with this massive contradiction.
Let's hear it.
If wisdom is this perfectly simple, undifferentiated unity, how can it possibly manifest as 32 distinct paths? By definition, you cannot have 32 paths of something that is fundamentally undivided.
Right, that is the ultimate tension of the Sefer Yetzirah. And the commentary provides what I think is a brilliant mechanical analogy to resolve it. The analogy of the water in the pipes.
Oh, this analogy completely unlocked the text for me. Can you walk through how it works?
Sure, so imagine an enormous reservoir of water. Water, in its natural state, is an undifferentiated fluid. It has no macroscopic structure. It takes no shape on its own. It is just a continuous flowing mass.
Right, pure, formless energy.
So this represents wisdom, chakma. Now imagine connecting that reservoir to a massive complex system of plumbing.
Okay.
The pipes divide the water, they channel it, force it into distinct streams, pushing it left, right, up and down. The structure is not in the water itself.
Right, the structure is imposed on the water by the pipes.
Exactly. And in this analogy, understanding, or Vina, is that system of pipes.
So the 32 paths, the 10 digits and the 22 letters, those are manifestations of understanding. They are the actual pipes. They are the structure.
Yeah.
But what flows through those pipes, what gives them actual power in life, is the pure water of wisdom.
Precisely. The paths channel wisdom, but the architecture of the paths is made of understanding. Wisdom is the non-verbal thought. Understanding is the mechanism that verbalizes it into 32 distinct channels of creation.
If I can map this onto something modern for you, the listener, to visualize, it is exactly like raw data and algorithms.
That's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, like imagine you have a massive, endless stream of ones and zeros. That raw data is wisdom. It has infinite potential, contains everything, but on its own, it is completely formless and entirely unusable. You can't just read a raw binary string.
Right, you need something to process it.
Exactly. Understanding is the algorithm. It's the sorting function. It's the software architecture. You run the raw data, the wisdom, through the algorithm, the understanding, so it can actually output a structured functional program on your screen, which, in this cosmic metaphor, is reality itself.
I love that. That is a highly accurate modern extrapolation. And, the Kabbalists codified this exact relationship centuries ago, but they used the archetypes of male and female principles.
Right, the text gets very specific here. It maps wisdom as the male principle, the father or Abba, and understanding as the female principle, the mother or Imma.
And we should clarify, this isn't about, human gender politics.
Oh, no.
It's about biological mechanics mirroring cosmic creation. The male principle, wisdom, represents the unchanneled, raw creative force, the seed.
Right.
But that force has no structure. It cannot grow into anything on its own. It can only be brought to fruition when it is received, delineated, enclosed, and nurtured by the female womb, which is understanding.
Which perfectly explains why the Sefer Yetzirah calls the primary Hebrew letters mothers.
Exactly.
The letters are literally the wombs that give form to the formless energy of creation.
Yes, the letters encapsulate the infinite energy of wisdom, giving it a specific, defined geometric shape so it can actually exist within a structured, physical universe.
Okay, so we have the raw material, the water of wisdom, and we have the structuring tool, the pipes of understanding. But this brings us to an enormous physical and philosophical problem.
The space problem.
Yes, the physics of how you actually place a universe into existence. The physics of how you actually place a universe into existence. Because if the creator, the infinite being, is truly infinite and fills all existence with this blazing, undifferentiated unity, where does the universe actually go?
Right, this is the classic paradox of infinite space. If God is literally everywhere, filling every possible conceptual and physical dimension, there is absolutely no room for a universe to exist. There is no empty canvas to paint on.
You cannot put a cup on a table if the table is already seamlessly fused with like a solid block of steel.
Exactly.
So how does the text actually solve this? It hinges on a very specific Hebrew word in the opening stanza, right? It says the creator engraved the universe.
Yes, the Hebrew word is chakak. And the commentary goes out of its way to distinguish chakak, which means engraving, from standard writing.
Because physically, writing and engraving are complete opposites.
Think about writing with ink on parchment. You are adding material to a surface. You are placing ink where there was no ink.
Right.
But engraving, like carving a letter into a stone tablet or pressing a stylus into clay, is an act of removing material. You are carving out empty space to form the shape of the letter.
The linguistic root of chakak is closely related to words meaning to erase, to remove, or to hollow out.
Which reveals the entirely counterintuitive nature of how the cosmos was formed. To create the universe, the infinite being did not add anything to reality. He had to subtract.
Wow.
He had to pull back his own infinite presence to create what Kabbalists call the vacated space. a hollow within the divine essence.
This is a famous concept of Zimsum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Constriction.
Yes, the Great Constriction. Before a single star or atom could exist, empty space had to be manufactured. The infinite being constricted his infinite light, pulling it back to the absolute periphery to carve out a conceptual vacuum right in the center.
The analogy that always grounds this for me is parenthood.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, think about a parent with a newborn. Initially, the parent's presence is total, right? They feed the child, they move the child, they dictate every single second of the child's environment.
Totally.
But if the parent never pulls back, if they never constrict their influence, that child will never develop their own ego. They will never have free will. They will just be an extension of the parent. The parent has to actively withdraw, to create a vacated space where the child's independence can actually grow.
That is a profoundly accurate psychological mirror of the Zimsum. The creator had to withdraw his infinite unity to give the universe the space to be something other than God, to allow for the illusion of independence and plurality.
But the text uses this striking, almost chilling phrase from the Zohar to describe the actual tool used to carve out this empty space. It calls it the lamp of darkness.
Right, and we talked earlier about understanding Bina being the force of division and structure. Well, the power of constriction, this pulling back, is driven by understanding.
Okay.
And the Zohar calls this power the lamp of darkness. It is described as a negative light.
Negative light. I mean, that sounds like dark energy or a black hole in astrophysics.
The conceptual parallel is undeniable. It is a force that does not illuminate, but rather swallows or carves out a hollow in the supernal light. But the commentary is extremely careful to note a really vital distinction here.
What is?
This constriction did not happen in physical space, because physical space hadn't been invented yet. It occurred in conceptual space.
Walk me through that. What is the difference between physical space and conceptual space?
Conceptual space is the realm of information. The lamp of darkness carved out a hollow that contained the possibility for information to exist, but not actual information yet.
Okay.
The text equates this primordial hollow to the state of chaos and void. Tohu and bohu, which you see in Genesis 1.2, the earth was chaos and void.
See, we usually think of chaos as just a messy room, right? Like stuff everywhere.
But mystically, chaos isn't a mess of stuff. Chaos is a state where information can exist, but where order has not yet been applied. The hollow was made through the 32 paths, the letters and digits. Think about a giant bucket filled with Scrabble tiles.
Okay, Scrabble tiles.
The letters exist. The possibility of writing a Shakespearean sonnet is right there in that bucket. But as long as they are just floating around randomly, they convey zero information. That is chaos.
So the vacated space is basically just the alphabet soup of reality.
Exactly. The potential is there, but it hasn't been realized. It is only afterward, when those letters are intentionally combined into words, forming the 10 sayings of creation in Genesis, that actual information is projected into the vacated space, allowing a structured physical reality to actually form.
Okay, so the infinite being pulled back. A conceptual vacuum was engraved using the negative light of understanding, and the alphabet of reality was poured in.
Right.
So now, the universe actually has to be built and dimensionalized. And the sources say this construction was executed using the 3 books.
Yes. The opening stanza concludes its thought by stating that the Creator formed his universe with 3 books, which in Hebrew is Sephirim.
And the linguistics here are incredibly deep. The text gives us 3 specific Hebrew words that all sound almost identical: Sefer, Sifr, and Sipper.
And what is vital to notice is that all 3 of these words share the exact same 3-letter root as the word Sephira. The divine emanations we've been discussing, the root is SPR.
SPR. And the text claims that these 3 variations of that root define the 3 fundamental dimensions of our reality. So let's go through them one by one.
Let's do it.
The first book is Sefer, which translates literally to text or book.
Right. Sefer relates to physical form and geometry. If you are holding a physical book or looking at a letter, Sefer is the actual shape of the ink on the page. In terms of the cosmic architecture, it represents space, the physical continuum of the universe, length, width, and depth.
Okay, so Sefer is text, it is space, it is the physical where of the universe.
Yes.
The second book is Sefer, which the text translates as number.
Yes, Sefer. And as an interesting side note, this Hebrew root is actually the origin of the English word cipher, meaning 0 or a numerical code.
Wow, I didn't realize that. That makes total sense.
It does. Sefer implies sequence, distribution, counting, and quantity. It is the numerical value assigned to a letter. And in the grand macroscopic sense, Sefer represents time.
That makes perfect sense because, I mean, what is time other than just a sequence of numbers?
All right, exactly.
First the second happens, then the next second. You're constantly counting moments. So Sefer is number, it is sequence, it is the when of the universe.
Right.
And the final book is Sipur, which translates to communication or telling.
Sefer is about relationship. It is the sound of the letter, the way it is spoken, the meaning it conveys when shared between two minds.
Okay.
In the cosmic framework, Sefer represents the spiritual dimension, the soul, or the consciousness that actually experiences the space and time.
So space, time, and spirit. Text, number, and communication. This is where the ancient mysticism suddenly sounds like cutting-edge theoretical physics. Because the text takes these three books and organizes them into a larger geometric framework. The sources state that the Sefer Yetzirah describes reality as a five-dimensional continuum.
It constructs a literal hypercube of existence. Let's break it down. We are entirely accustomed to thinking in three dimensions of space. Up, down, left, right, forward, backward.
Right.
The Kabbalists group these three spatial dimensions together as a single continuum, which is represented by the first book, space, or Sefer.
So that is three dimensions right there.
Then you add time, which is Sefer. Time acts as the fourth dimension, the sequence in which the three spatial dimensions change and move.
Which Albert Einstein would totally agree with. Space-time is a 4D construct.
Right. But then Kabbalah posits a necessary fifth dimension, the spiritual dimension, or consciousness, Sipur, the arena of meaning and relationship.
So we have a five-dimensional universe, three of space, one of time, one of spirit. But here is the part of the deep dive that genuinely blew my mind. The math. When you look at the math of the 32 paths, it aligns with absolute flawless precision to the geometry of a five-dimensional object.
It is mathematical perfection. The commentary walks us through the geometry of spatial dimensions to prove this.
Let's walk you, the listener, through this right now. Picture a one-dimensional object in your mind.
Just a simple line segment.
A simple line segment. It has two ends, or two apexes. Mathematically, that is 2 to the first power. 2.
Now bump it up to 2 dimensions. Picture a flat square on a piece of paper.
Okay, a square has 4 corners. Mathematically, that is 2 to the second power. 2 squared equals 4.
Move to 3 dimensions. A physical, solid cube. Think of a die you roll in a board game.
A cube has 8 corners. 2 to the third power. 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8.
Now we enter theoretical geometry, 4 dimensions. A tesseract, or a 4D hypercube. If you calculate the corners of a 4-dimensional hypercube, it has exactly 16 apexes, 2 to the 4th power.
Which brings us to the 5th dimension. A 5-dimensional hypercube. 2 to the 5th power. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 equals exactly 32.
32 apexes. The 32 mystical paths of wisdom correspond perfectly to the 32 geometric boundaries of a 5-dimensional hypercube.
That is it's stunning.
The authors of the Sefer Yetzirah were not just throwing out a poetically pleasing number, they were mathematically defining the exact coordinates of a 5D reality.
You have mystics thousands of years ago mapping out 5-dimensional theoretical geometry using Hebrew letters and divine names. It is a literal cosmic blueprint.
Yes.
But if you, as a listener, are sitting there thinking, this is all just abstract math floating out there in the void,
yeah,
this is where we bring it violently down to earth.
My favorite part.
Yes, because according to these sources, this 5D architecture is not just out in space. It is mapped perfectly, directly onto your own physical body.
This relies on one of the oldest mystical principles, the relationship between the macrocosm and the microcosm, as above, so below.
Above, so below.
Right. The fundamental Kabbalistic belief is that man is a miniature model of creation. Everything that exists in the vast cosmic architecture has an exact parallel inside the human form.
So if the universe is a 32-path hypercube, how do those 32 paths map onto human anatomy?
They perfectly parallel the human nervous system.
The nervous system. Not the skeleton, not the muscles, the actual internal electrical wiring.
Yes. If you look at human anatomy, there are exactly 31 pairs of spinal nerves that emanate from the spinal cord, branching out to transmit messages between the brain and the rest of the body.
Okay, the 31 spinal nerves leaves us one short. We need 32.
Well, anatomy provides the 32nd. The 32nd and highest path corresponds to the entire complex of cranial nerves. There are 12 cranial nerves, but they operate as a single complex that connects directly to the brain, bypassing the spinal cord entirely.
So you have the 31 spinal nerves, plus the cranial complex acting as the crown, 32 paths.
And think about the actual function of the nervous system. The text points this out explicitly to show the symmetry. The nervous system has a dual flow. First, it transmits messages downward from the brain into the limbs, allowing the mind to impose its will and control physical reality.
Okay, and that mirrors the downward flow of creation. God imposing order on the universe through the 32 paths.
Exactly. But secondly, the nervous system transmits information upward from the external senses back to the brain. The impulses of touch, sight, pain, temperature, they travel back up those exact same 32 pathways.
It's a two-way street. The 32 paths are how the divine mind controls creation, but they're also the pathways through which an individual can reach back up and communicate with the divine mind.
Precisely. If you want to attain a mystical experience, you don't travel outward into space. You travel backward, inward, along the 32 neural pathways of your own existence.
If the brain represents the divine mind and the nerves are the 32 paths, what powers the whole system? The sources bring in a mind-blowing connection here through gematria.
Right, the mystical numerology where every Hebrew letter has a mathematical value.
Exactly, and this connection centers entirely around the heart.
Yes. In Hebrew, the word for heart is lev. It is spelled with just two letters, a lamed and a bet.
Let's run the numbers on that. Looking at table 3 in the text, the letter lamed has a numerical value of 30. The letter bet has a numerical value of 2.
30 plus 2 equals 32.
The heart literally equals 32.
It is a profound anatomical and spiritual truth. The heart is what pumps the blood, the life force, to the brain and the nervous system. The text notes a biological reality. The moment the physical heart stops pumping, the mind ceases to be able to influence the body. That is the literal definition of death.
So the heart is the causal link. The Sefer Yetzirah refers to the heart as the king over the soul. It is the engine driving the 32 paths. Just as the physical heart links the human mind to the human body, the cosmic 32 paths link the divine mind to the physical universe.
And there is a beautiful, sweeping textual symmetry to this as well. Think about the Torah, which Kabbalists view as the literal encoded blueprint of creation.
Oh.
The very first letter of the entire Torah, in the word Bereshit, which means in the beginning, is a bet.
And the very last letter of the Torah, at the end of Deuteronomy, in the word Yisrael, or Israel, is a lamed.
Bet at the beginning, lamed at the end. The entirety of the cosmic blueprint is bookended by the two letters that spell lev, heart. All of existence, all 32 paths, are contained within the cosmic heart.
The commentary even highlights a grammatical quirk about these two specific letters, lamed and bet, who I thought was fascinating regarding their relationship to the human soul.
Oh yes, in the entire Hebrew alphabet, lamed and bet are totally unique. They are the only two letters that can combine directly with the suffixes of the divine name to form personal inward pronouns.
Meaning the suffix yud means me, he means her, vav means him.
Right. And you can attach them to lamed to make li, which means to me, la, to her, lo, to him. Or attach them to bet to make be, in me, ba, in her, bo, in him. No other letters function exactly this way. They are structurally bound to personal relationship, intimacy, and inwardness.
Speaking of inwardness, there is an incredible phonetic analysis in the sources regarding the nature of these paths. The opening stanza specifically calls them the 32 mystical paths.
The Hebrew word translated as mystical here is peliot.
And the root of peliot is pele, which means miracle.
By definition, a miracle is something hidden. It is an event that is separated from the normal observable laws of the physical world. It implies a direct link to a transcendental plane.
Right.
So to call them the 32 mystical or miraculous paths is to say they are hidden internal channels that completely bypass the normal rules of physical reality.
But the way the commentary breaks down the actual physical pronunciation of the word pele, this is where the physical act of speaking becomes a literal map of the universe. I want you, the listener, to actually do this with me right now.
It is a remarkable phonetic journey. Let's trace it. The word Pele is spelled with 3 letters, Pe, Lamed, and Aleph. According to the phonetic families outlined in the Sefer Yetzirah, each of these letters is articulated in a completely different part of your vocal tract.
Okay, so say the letter Pe or P. Right now, make the sound P.
Pe is a labial letter. It is pronounced entirely with the lips.
And the lips are the outermost, most revealed, most external part of your mouth, right? They touch the outside world.
Exactly. Now move to the second letter, Lamed, or L-Lu.
Notice where your tongue is. Lamed is a lingual letter. It is pronounced with the middle of the tongue striking the roof of the mouth. You are moving inward, away from the external world.
And the final letter, Aleph.
Aleph is a silent stop, a guttural letter. Make a slight catch in your throat, like the beginning of the word apple. Ah!
Aleph is articulated deep down in the throat. It is the innermost, most concealed, darkest part of the vocal tract.
So when you physically speak the word Pele, P-L-A, pay attention to what your body is doing. Your breath starts at the lips, the physical revealed world. And as you speak the word, the locus of the sound travels backward, inward down your tongue, and vanishes into the silence of your throat.
The very physical pronunciation of the word Pele is a literal reenactment of the mystical journey. It denotes the transition from the revealed, noisy, external physical world into the concealed, silent, mystical depths of your own body. Speaking the word forces you to travel backward along the paths toward the divine mind.
It is absolute genius. The word for mystical journey literally forces your biology to take a physical journey inward.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so we understand how the breath travels inward. We understand the nervous system, but conceptually, practically, how does a person actually traverse these paths spiritually? What does it mean to climb this ladder?
To answer that, we have to look at the exact Hebrew word the text chooses for paths. It uses the word netivot.
Netivat. And the sources make a massive sweeping point about why it uses netivat instead of a much more common Hebrew word for road or path, which is derek.
Yes, the Zohar explains the difference beautifully. Think of a derek as a public highway.
Like the interstate.
Right. It is paved, it is wide, there are signposts everywhere, and millions of people travel it every day. You can get on a derek and just blindly follow the taillights of the car in front of you. It requires absolutely no thought.
But a native
is a hidden personal trail. It is a path blazed by a single individual through the wilderness, meant only for their own personal use. There are no signs, there is no pavement, no one else can show you exactly where to step.
So the 32 paths of wisdom are netivat. They're private trails.
Exactly. The message is stark. There is no open highway to the mysteries of the universe. You cannot just adopt someone else's enlightenment. You cannot blindly follow the crowd or rely entirely on a guru. Each individual human soul must blaze their own incredibly personal trail to the divine.
And once you are on that personal trail, blazing your way up, you are essentially climbing a hierarchy of divine forces.
Yes, you are.
The opening stanza actually lists several different names or designations of God in rapid succession. Yah, Lord of hosts, God of Israel, living God, King of the universe, El Shaddai.
And to a casual reader, those just look like, poetic synonyms. But in Kabbalah, there are no synonyms.
Every word matters.
Every word. Each of those names represents a highly specific sephira, a specific rung on the cosmic ladder. And more importantly, they represent specific directional flows of energy.
The downward versus upward flow we talked about with the nervous system. Break down how the names reflect that flow.
Sure. Take the sephira, called foundation, or yesod in Hebrew. This rung represents the essential creative, procreative force of the universe. The sources point out that this single force is referred to by two different names in the text: living God, or Elohim Shem, and El Shaddai.
Why two names for the exact same rung?
Because of the direction of the flow. Living God is the designation of this force from a top-down perspective. It is the creator's view looking down, actively projecting life and creative energy into the physical universe. It is God reaching down.
But El Shaddai.
El Shaddai represents that exact same force, but from humanity's bottom-up point of view. It is the experiential name used in the upward process as a human being approaches the divine from below.
Right.
This is why in the Torah, God says to Moses, "I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai." It is the specific name of God encountered by a human climbing up the mountain.
So the first 5 names in the opening stanza represent the downward process, the flow of structuring the universe. Then the text pivots and designates names relating to the upward process, how we climb back up. It is literally drawing a circuit diagram of reality.
A complete circuit of creation and return.
But this leads to a really vital question. It's something I think any modern listener would immediately ask. If these Sephirot, these 10 digits, these forces represented by different names, are so incredibly powerful and they manage the entire universe, do you pray to them? Like if you want a child, do you pray to the Sephira of foundation? If you want wisdom, do you pray to the Sephira of understanding?
The Kabbalistic texts are absolute, fierce, and entirely uncompromising on this exact point. Absolutely not. You do not, under any circumstances, pray to the Sephiro. Worshipping or praying to a Sephira is strictly forbidden.
Because it would essentially be idolatry. You would be worshiping the hammer instead of the carpenter.
Precisely. And the commentary provides a very helpful modern analogy to ensure this is understood. It compares the Sephirot to a computer's central processing unit or a memory bank.
Right. If you want to write an email to a friend, you use the CPU to process the data. You don't bow down to your CPU. You don't ask the microchip to bless you. It is just a mechanism.
Or, to use the text's older, more classical analogy, the Sephirot are like a postman. If you want to send a vital message to the king, you don't write the letter to the postman. You don't worship the postman. You hand your letter to the postman, using him as a channel, trusting him to deliver it to the king.
The Sephirah are just the channels. They are the ladder you use to approach the infinite, but they are not the infinite itself.
Yes. The infinite being, which Kabbalah calls the Ein Sof, the endless, is completely unknowable, unnameable, and unreachable directly. The Sephirah are simply the interface. They are the UI through which God communicates with man, and man communicates with God.
Okay, so if we are climbing this ladder, utilizing these channels, blazing our personal native upward, where does it actually end? What is the absolute highest rung a human mind can possibly comprehend before it hits the unknowable infinite?
The stanza alludes to this peak with the final phrase, "His name is holy." The Kabbalists note that this expression points to the highest of all the Sephirot, which is called Keter, meaning crown.
Crown. And the gematria, the math behind this phrase is just wild.
It truly is. In Hebrew, the expression, "his name is Shmo." If you add up the numerical value of the letters in Shmo, it equals exactly 346.
346, and what else equals exactly 346?
The Hebrew word ratzon, which means will.
Will, not wisdom, not understanding. Will. I really have to push back on this because intellectually, I always think of wisdom as the ultimate goal. The wise old sage on the mountain is the peak of human achievement. How is will higher than wisdom?
Let's analyze your own mind for a second. Before you can have a wise thought, before you can engage in pure, non-verbal contemplation of unity, what has to happen first?
I have to want to think.
Exactly. You must first have the raw impulse to think. Will is that initial, unexplainable, entirely irrational urge to exist and to act. It is the absolute spark that gives rise to all subsequent thought.
Wow, it's the spark before the fire. You can't have the fire of wisdom without the initial spark of will.
And the anatomical terminology they use is just perfect. It is called Keter the crown. Just as a physical crown sits on top of the head, completely above and outside the brain, the divine will sits above all mental processes. It cannot be grasped by the intellect because the intellect is functionally below it. You can't think about will, you can only experience it.
And the text associates this ultimate level of crown with a concept called ein, which translates to nothingness.
Nothingness. But we must be careful here, not in a nihilistic empty sense. It means no-thingness. It is a state of existence so lofty, so blindingly unified, that there are no things left to define. There are no boundaries. It is on this level of crown, of nothingness, that the laws of nature simply cease to exist.
Because the laws of nature, like gravity, thermodynamics, time, they're just rules of division and structure. They are the pipes. And at the level of the crown, the pipes haven't been built yet.
Exactly. And because the laws of nature do not exist at this level, this is the realm where miracles, Pele, are formed. If an individual can elevate their consciousness through the 32 private paths, traveling inward past their own ego, and touch the level of the crown, reality becomes entirely fluid. The rigid rules of the simulation literally dissolve.
Wow. I need to just take a breath. Because the journey we have just gone on in this deep dive is completely staggering. We have covered the entire architecture of existence.
It is a lot to hold in the mind at once. Synthesis is really important here.
Yeah, let me try to summarize this massive 5D matrix we've explored. We started with a reality that was absolute infinite unity, but to create a universe, that unity had to be constricted. The infinite being pulled back, the Tzimtzum carving out a conceptual vacated space using the lamp of darkness, the power of understanding and separation.
Creating the possibility for information to exist in the void.
Right. And into that empty space, the blueprint of reality was drawn using 32 mystical paths, 10 digits representing quantity, measurement, and structure, 22 letters representing quality, essence, and meaning. These paths were the manifestation of Elohim, the cosmic scalpel of plurality, acting as the structural pipes to channel the pure, unified water of wisdom.
And those paths were meticulously organized into 3 books, Space, Time, and Spirit, mathematically defining a 5-dimensional geometric hypercube of existence.
And then, the ultimate mic drop. This entire cosmic 5D matrix isn't just theoretical astrophysics floating in the sky. It is mirrored identically in your own body.
Yes.
The 32 paths are your central nervous system. The cosmic engine driving it all is your heart, Lev, spelling the number 32. And the journey back to the infinite is physically mirrored every time you speak the word for miracle, pulling your breath from your outer lips, down your tongue, into the concealed silence of your throat.
It is a perfect fractal reality. The macrocosm and the microcosm are one and the same. To study the universe is to study yourself, and to study yourself is to map the universe.
It fundamentally changes how I look at my own biology. I am not just a meat sack living inside a vast universe. I am a functioning, breathing model of it.
That is exactly the paradigm shift, the deep realization that the Sefer Yetzirah was designed to provoke in its reader.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you, the listener, with today. Something to mull over as you go about your life, building on everything we just discussed. We've learned today that the universe was quite literally engraved into existence through letters, numbers, and communication. The ultimate building blocks of reality aren't atoms or quarks or physical stuff, they are words.
Language is not just descriptive. In this framework, language is the primary architecture of reality.
Exactly. So if we are truly a microcosm of this divine process, if our nervous system perfectly reflects the 32 forces of creation, then our everyday language isn't just a passive tool for describing the world around us. It is an active tool for creating it.
Right.
Every time you speak, you're acting as a mini-creator, channeling energy through your own 32 paths into the vacated space around you. So the ultimate question is, what kind of reality are you engraving into the empty spaces of your own life with the words you choose to speak today?
An incredibly heavy question, because if this text is right, every single word you speak is a literal structuring of the void.
It's a terrifying responsibility, but also just an unparalleled power. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly deep dive. Until next time, keep blazing your own personal trails, keep questioning the fundamental nature of your reality, and mind your words.